Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the AWS and Brightsolid Driving Digital Transformation with Public Cloud webinar. My name is John Gasparini. I'm the CTO at Brightsolid, and I'm delighted to be joined this morning by Chris Birtwistle. Chris is Head of UK Local Government with AWS. Our goal over the next 30 minutes is to offer a bit of insight into who AWS and Brightsolid are for those that maybe aren't aware, and for Chris, Chris's goal is to kind of share some great insight around how UK local government organisations are innovating and transforming how they engage with their communities and citizens through AWS as a platform. I'll then look to kind of touch on how we work with AWS and our customers to achieve some of the outcomes that Chris has shared, talk a bit about an accelerator that we have that reduces time to value and significantly reduces risk. And then at the end, Chris and I will look to kind of take any questions that you have. Just in terms of, just to make everyone aware, we are recording the webinar this morning. And look, if you do have questions as we go through them, please do pop those into the chat window. And again, Chris and I will pick those up at the end. So Chris, without further ado, I will hand over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, John. Let me just share the right screen. Hopefully that's come up for everybody. Does that look good, John?
Yep, that's good, Chris.
Excellent. Thank you. I thank you so much for the time, and thank you everybody for joining. As John said, I look after our local government team here at AWS, and I have got a few things to run through. Today. A little bit of backgrounds around why customers choose AWS. I'll give you a bit broader context around what we're doing in and around local government, and then we'll talk a little around some of our skills and enablement programs, around sustainability. We've got a really interesting story for some of the initiatives and projects going on in Scotland there as well. And then finish up on where we see cost saving potentials. There's heavy emphasis in and around across public sector, certainly within the local government remit where me and my team are working. And there's lots of really good news stories that we can talk through there as well. So just to kick things off, so some of the reasons why UK public sector are choosing AWS. In terms of our platform, we've over 200 fully featured services across a whole range of areas, from compute, storage, database, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and many more. We'll talk around some of the use cases and where customers are applying that technology as well. But in terms of the pace of innovation, the rate at which we're innovating roughly translates to around about 15 new features and services a week, and that's been growing over the past few years. The other interesting thing for me around that, and I'll talk a little around culture in a moment too, is around about 90% of those that innovation is driven by direct customer feedback. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but the broader Amazon family, and AWS certainly is our kind of core leadership principle is customer obsession, and for me that translates in many areas. But in terms of the way we innovate, we take what our customers want and think very seriously. We've got over 1 million active customers. We've got an extremely broad partner ecosystem, tens of thousands of customers on our APM program. I'm very lucky to be joined by an excellent partner in Brightsolid today. So we'll talk a little bit more about how we're partnering in Scotland and some of the things that we can do together as well. And we're the most mature cloud platform. There's a saying in Amazon that there's no compression algorithm for experience. There are certain lessons that you learn having gone through the curve along the way, and we've been doing this 6 years longer than any other cloud provider. I mentioned culture earlier, and customer obsession is a driver behind the decisions that we take as a business. I mentioned around innovation. Another area that's quite unique, I think, to Amazon is the way that we price our services. So there's a flywheel approach to pricing at Amazon. we deliver services, customers adopt those services. As we attract more customers onto that platform, we grow our economies of scale, which enables us to do things more cheaply. We pass on those savings to customers, and that attracts more customers, and so the flywheel continues. And the results in that, we've actively reduced prices 107 times since our inception in 2006, which, like I say, for me is quite a unique mode of operation. A little bit more about the team. So to add some faces to our local government team specifically. These individuals all focused in different roles, but all specifically focused in on local government in the UK, and all actively working with customers all across the length and breadth of the country. Some of our customers, we've got many and more different use cases, from all-in migrations over at Aylesbury Vale, who operate partially that's running applications on AWS, partially that's consuming SaaS, our broader SaaS partner solutions. We've got organizations like Peterborough and Asia and Worthing that operate more of a hybrid environment. We've got some really interesting data examples, and I'll touch on a couple of those in a bit more detail as well. And something that we've certainly seen a lot more take up over the past 12 months for some obvious reasons. Customers adopting Connect, which is our contact center platform for delivering COVID hubs. So the Social Security Scotland is a really good example of that, as are Hounslow and more recently Peterborough, but also for a full contact center deployment. And you can integrate back into other systems. We've got customers integrating that back into their CRM system to give their agents, one, flexibility because they can work from home really easily, extremely good scalability, of course, but also really good insight into some of the other information and data points around the business. So to touch on a little bit more detail on some of those customer examples, Hackney we've been working with Hackney for some time now, and during the early weeks of the COVID-19 pandemic, one thing that Hackney were really keen to ensure they were able to do was to identify vulnerable residents that might not be immediately obvious to them. To do that, they took 6 data sets, and they used their unique property reference number as a centralized point to identify vulnerable single households. And the criteria they were looking for there was a resident over 70 with no active council support. They were able to identify 970 households where there were individuals that they could target resources and support to ensure that they had everything they need. Now, they were able to do this really rapidly because they were able to create new solutions quickly on the platform, but also because they'd set the right parameters around their data, and they were able to share via APIs really quickly. The other interesting thing with Hackney, some of you may have seen in the news, they suffered an awful attack on their data center, on-premises data center, in around about December time. And they spoke at Cyber UK last week around how they're building back stronger and more secure in the clouds. And so Hackney work in the open. They like to share what they're doing, lessons learned. And so there's some really interesting stories there around how they're looking to kind of build new services and migrate existing services into a cloud-based, secure cloud-based environment. I can share the video Matthew Kane spoke on as a follow-up to this if anyone's interested, but I'm sure they'd be more than happy to share more detail on what they're doing as well. The next story I wanted to talk about was it's a really interesting one for me, this, because actually under the hood it's a really simple solution, but it solves quite a practical challenge. So Maidstone Borough Council down in the south of England, they have a form solution on their website where residents can submit for a parking permit or for other applications, and they have a process flow then that form gets received by an agent. There's certain things they need to do to it. So they would always need to rotate the image 180 degrees. They would need to check certain boxes had been filled out, the right kind of information was entered in the right areas. know would pass it on to the appropriate team to service that request. By plugging together a couple of AWS solutions, so we have a serverless technology that will receive an action and fulfill a request completely serverlessly, and then use a product called Textract, which is in one of our AI solutions that's able to recognize text on a form. And they're able to do the manual components of checking that the right things are in the right places and spinning around the images, and then pass that on extremely quickly in an automated manner to the team that could then service that request. Now, they estimate there's around about £100,000 of agency staffing fees that they're able to save by just automating that workflow. A really nice, like fairly simple example, but where you can have a really big impact really quickly. The next one that I was going to talk around was around the integrated care service up in Healthier Lancashire and South Cumbria. So they've got there's an ICS in the region that covers around 1.7 million, and they've created a single care records on AWS. So some really sensitive data, but data that's got the capacity to potentially have a really big impact on those residents. They're now exploring what they can do with that data and how they can improve patient outcomes. And one of the really interesting areas that they identified fairly early on was when paramedics they get to a person who needs some help. That individual isn't always able to tell them all of the information they need to know, things like allergies or things like prescriptions that might be really important for the care decisions that the paramedics need to make. But by accessing the single patient records, they've got that instantly, that information. They did a really nice video on how that's working for them and some of the kind of patient outcomes that they're able to achieve as a result. So that's another one. If people are interested, I can share that one on afterwards as well. Moving on, so we've a broad range of skills and enablement programs available to our customers. Some of these are kind of focused in at citizens, and some of them are focused at public sector organisations. But I'll touch on a couple. In 2019, we launched our first Educate programme up into the City of Glasgow College. Since then, we've rolled that out to 10 colleges and universities across Scotland. And that's a curriculum, that's a free curriculum aimed at schools, colleges and universities. In August of last year, we launched Get IT in Scotland. This is focused at girls around 12 to 13 and aims to try and get them interested and engaged in technology and also STEM subjects. We have female ambassadors who run programs in the schools and try to get them engaged on an idea or an opportunity that's going to impact their home or school life. We've got schools in Glasgow and Edinburgh taking part, and we have actually next week. I'm very fortunately on the judging panel for this as well. We've got 2 schools that are taking part in our semi-finals taking place on Monday of next week. So that's 2 Scottish schools, sorry. So that's really exciting to see. And the other one that I was just going to touch on was Restart. Restart is aimed at getting unemployed and underemployed individuals back into technology roles. And we offer a free training program over a period of weeks to give them the skills they need in order to start a career in technology. We often work with former military service leaders. We work with the Prince's Trust and also local charities to find candidates to go through the program. And we also work with local partners as recruitment partners who are interested in hiring people with those skills. And I'm very pleased to say Brightsolid was our first Scottish employer to sign up to that programme as well, with a view to taking on one of those Restart graduates too. We have those programmes running all over the country. So there's lots of capacity for us to be able to hopefully positively impact. The next area I was going to just touch on was around sustainability. in 2019, Amazon co-founded the Climate Pledge, which is a commitment to be net zero carbon across our business by 2040. And within AWS specifically, we're committed to running our business in the most environmentally friendly way. A few areas that we're doing that, and particularly locally, we launched the largest wind corporate power purchase agreement in the UK, up in the Kintyre Peninsula over in the west of Scotland. That was in 2019, I believe. And then in December 2020, we built on that agreement by announcing that we've signed a second deal in Scotland for another onshore wind project. That's in South Lanarkshire. And just last month, we announced the third power purchase agreement up in Moray. Really pleased to see AWS with committing to renewable energy in Scotland playing such a big part in that. For an organisation, we had some research done that suggested that you can reduce your carbon footprint by around 88% running in AWS. And we've some interesting statistics there as well around the amount of the tonnage of CO2 emissions that UK AWS customers are saving each year. And the final thing I was going to touch on was just around cost savings. So in the work that we've been doing with councils all up and down the UK, we see a typical unitary council there being an opportunity to save around 57%. And we've got a number of programs that can support you in that journey as well, that can help you make that transition from on-premises to clouds. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's an all or nothing decision either. There's many and more different journeys that organizations take. And often it will start with a smaller project. We've got a number of customers up in across the UK and in Scotland as well, where we may start with a backup project, or where we might start with a particular application. When John talks a little more around Brightsolid's experience and capabilities, there's some really interesting opportunities there around hybrid options as well, which many of our customers see as a kind of a practical first step into the clouds. In terms of some of the benefits of where those cost savings come from, you can be extremely efficient with your resources. You can power up and down as needed. You can turn on and off resource, not only the resource itself, but the associated licensing when and where required. You can turn those non-production environments off over a weekend, and even your kind of users' desktops as you need them. We talked a little earlier around Connect and being able to scale up and down to meet demand and capacity, and equally in the flexibility of having your workers work where needed. As I say, the how and some of the practicalities around decisions that are pertinent to customers, John's going to give a little bit more insight into how Brightsolid can support customers in doing that. But just to summarise, I suppose we'll wrap it into the 3 key points. Look, we often see, and I was talking a little there around price savings, we often see a business case will be predicated on there being cost savings, and I see there being a really strong opportunity for customers to save costs in moving to the clouds. But actually what customers tell us down the line more often than not is the real value is in being able to accelerate some of the innovation capabilities, and in being able to try and deliver new solutions. That Hackney was a really interesting example during COVID-19, just being able to deploy services really quickly to impact residents. And it's that ability to innovate and the acceleration of that innovation capability that often is the thing that has the most impact down the line. There's also, of course, there's great opportunity to improve carbon footprint there as well. And really interesting to see all of the work that's going on in Scotland in that regard in particular. So that was everything that I had to talk through today. Happy to take any questions now, of course, but John's now going to talk through how Brightsolids are able to take you through some of that journey and support you along the way.
Brilliant, Chris. Look, thank you. Some amazing stories, and I've been really fortunate. I've been both worked as an AWS partner and a customer over the last year, and I just continue to be amazed by the stories around how organisations are building and innovating on AWS, and some great examples of that in UK local government this morning. So I wanted to start by talking a little bit about who Brightsolid are. I recognise some of you on the call this morning will know of us. You're maybe existing customers or have worked with us in the past, but there may be somewhere where Brightsolid is less familiar. So as a business, we've been around for over 25 years, and we've got an incredibly strong track record and heritage in helping organisations exploit cloud-based services. Back in 1995, when we were founded, we were one of the early pioneers in the internet era in Scotland, providing connectivity services, early web hosting and web application development. And since then, we've kept step with the technological transformations to make sure that we continue to be relevant and are best placed to kind of help our customers take advantage of the capability and services they need to support their businesses. In 2005 and 2015, we opened our Tier 3 design data centres in Dundee and Aberdeen, and those facilities today are supplied by 100% renewable energy. And through those facilities, we provide a range of co-location and private cloud services to a range of public sector organisations in Scotland today, from local authorities to central government to the NHS, and including some critical blue light services in there as well. In 2008, we rebranded and became known as Brightsolid. And then more recently, in April of 2020, we launched our hybrid cloud proposition. So that was building on our strong track record around co-location and private cloud, and extending that into public cloud and becoming an AWS public sector partner, working incredibly close with AWS in Scotland to deliver success into some of our public sector customers. And really all of that underpins our vision, which is to be the hybrid cloud managed service provider of choice in Scotland. So how do we help our customers? So again, building on that track record and heritage, we've developed our proven approach, which we believe can help reduce delivery risk, but also can accelerate time to value. And our approach is tailored that we recognise that customers are starting at different points in the journey. We work with customers today that are perhaps dipping their toe into public cloud for the very, very first time. And for them, it's here's where I am today. Here are the outcomes I'm looking to achieve. What does that transition, what does that journey look like? And what are the steps and where do I start in that journey? And whilst we help them look through that, through a technology lens and the technology transformation journey as part of that, we also kind of bring advice and guidance around some of the broader organisational changes that you need to consider as part of a public cloud journey. There are changes to the operating model. Chris talked about skills earlier. The skills that you need are different. The processes, some of the organisation structure might change. That impact other functions, not just technology. It could be internal audit and risk. It could be, from a finance point of view, you might be moving from a CapEx model for infrastructure to a variable OpEx model, fundamentally different, as well as some of the changes around security and compliance to meet any specific policies or regulations that you have. For customers, we can also tailor the approach to work with customers that are already in AWS today as well, and working with them to address maybe specific challenges or tap into new capability to help them innovate, to deliver new services or kind of drive cost out of their existing budgets. We've got an incredibly talented team of AWS architects and engineers that work with our customers to kind of build out new public cloud-based services to kind of deliver some of the examples that Chris shared earlier. And we do that using modern techniques. So it's all around automation. It's working and building out infrastructure as code, using techniques such as continuous integration to automate the build out of environments, the changes to those environments. And in some cases, for example, around development and test, you might want to tear those down as well, automatically, say, at the end of the day or over a weekend to save cost. When it comes to migration, again, there are a range of options available and that we use with our customers. The most basic of those is just a traditional lift and shift where you're moving maybe virtual machines from a data center environment to AWS. But where we can, we really want to work with customers and encourage them to look at the transformation opportunities as they move to AWS. And that's really how you unlock some of the opportunities that Chris has shared with you this morning and exploit some of the broader ecosystem of services that AWS as a platform can provide. And Again, we're working with our most recent customer. We kicked off an engagement just last Wednesday. So we have an existing Brightsolid public sector customer that use our private cloud platform hosted out of Dundee and Aberdeen. And they're looking to move a data application to AWS. Rather than just migrate the virtual machines as is, we're helping them transform that into a container-based solution, because that will better meet some of the capability that they're looking to exploit down the line as well, and give them a greater level of flexibility and help them really drive down cost. From a management point of view, we've been providing 24/7 managed service for over 25 years. And we've got some great experience in delivering services across mission critical applications, and that includes blue light services from our dedicated team based in Scotland, from our service desk to our engineering staff across network, compute and cloud. We've got strong service management processes, the right tools to help us proactively monitor those environments, capability to do break fix, and some of the hygiene and maintenance that goes on behind the scenes as well, ensuring backups are taken and regular patching occurs. And then there's Optimize, and Optimize as a capability has really been driven by the advent of public cloud. And AWS as a platform offers customers a number of levers that they can use to really reduce how much they pay on a monthly basis to AWS, and Chris touched on that towards the end of his slides. And as a partner, our team of experience of working with customers from the early days, maybe where they're spending a few $1,000s a year with AWS, all the way up to customers worth spending in the region of $25 million a year with AWS. And how do you take advantage of these levers? And some of those levers are reasonably straightforward. You've got reservations where you are committing to use an amount of capacity for a period of time, and in return, AWS will typically offer a 30 to 50% discount on their normal on-demand prices. But there are more sophisticated levers as well. And a recent example with one customer that was running a Java-based application. They were running on an Intel-based compute engine on AWS, but AWS offers a Java optimized compute solution called Graviton 2. By migrating them to that, not only did we offer them in the region of a 30% performance boost, but we're able to do that and shave 10% of the cost off at the same time. So again, it's looking at innovative ways to exploit those levers to really drive down that monthly spend. Security and controls really forms the heart of everything that we do. So working at the beginning with our customers to understand what they're trying to achieve, any of the policies or regulations they need to meet. In Chris's example earlier, the ICS, cloud adoption use case, where you're dealing with patient data, that's incredibly sensitive. You want to make sure that is tightly controlled and protected at rest. So again, designing that in, factoring that into the build or any migration activity, and then ensuring that it flows through to the managed service at the end of the day. And to help customers achieve that, we have an accelerator. So we can offer Cloud Foundations as a product that will help accelerate the delivery of an AWS landing zone that has a number of pre-built security and cost controls out of the box. Now, normally when developers and engineers hear controls, they think, all you're going to do is slow down all of the innovation that Chris has shared this morning. That's not the case with Cloud Foundations. Cloud Foundations provide a highly configurable framework that allows your developers and engineers to drive the innovation that you need to meet your business outcomes. But they're doing that within a framework that protects your data and protects your systems and the customers at the end of the day. We provide 4 key capabilities through Cloud Foundations. One is around managed access. So again, helping customers integrate into a single sign-on provider. If you're using one today, that could be Okta, Azure AD, there are others. But also providing out of the box a set of predefined role-based access controls that are based on a least privilege model, but also segregating access depending on the role required. Look, developers and engineers don't need administrative access all of the time, and it's about controlling access based on least privilege to ensure that they can achieve the right outcomes. Managed networking. So we provide a pre-built set of networking constructs as part of Cloud Foundations. At the internet perimeter within AWS, we provide a control layer that can control in and outbound traffic, but we allow you to define the allow and deny list that will allow your customers or business users to be able to access these services, but again, in a very, very controlled and safe and secure way. We allow your developers and engineers to deploy the services that you need within a private networking construct, but also for customers that are hosting with Brightsolid today, or perhaps looking at maybe migrating to our facilities in Dundee and Aberdeen, we have today pre-provisioned diverse circuits using the AWS Direct Connect service into their point of presence in London. So we can provide, in a matter of hours, secure private connectivity from a Brightsolid data center into AWS. So you're not having to wait that 90-day lead time for the telco to provision those. We can do that in a matter of hours today. Zero-touch deployment. Again, when you're deploying virtual machine fleets in AWS, you want to make sure that the operating system that you're running is hardened, it's secure. We provide hardened Amazon machine images. So these are the golden operating system images. And these are hardened to the Centre of Internet Security's Level 2 benchmark. So they're kind of like the gold standard for hardening operating systems. And we update those monthly to keep step with the latest vendor operating system patches. And those images are available across Windows Server and a number of flavors of Linux as well today. And finally, there's managed compliance. So we deploy a compliance engine out of the box, and that compliance engine today comes with over 60 preventative and detective controls, and that's continually growing based on the feedback that we get from customers. And those controls are aligned to recognised industry standards, so ISO 27001, as well as the National Cyber Security Centre's cloud security principles. And to give you an example, one of the controls, and again, going back to the ICS example that Chris talked about, if you're storing critical patient and sensitive patient data, you want to make sure that all of your data is encrypted at rest. So if you have a developer coming along and launching a virtual machine for the first time and the storage attached to that virtual machine is not encrypted, our compliance engine detects that at launch and will automatically terminate that virtual machine. We'll send a notification to that developer who will hopefully learn from that error, will correct their code. The next time they run that through, the virtual machine should hopefully launch successfully because the storage is encrypted. So Cloud Foundations is an accelerator that gets you to a secure and compliant AWS landing zone in a matter of hours, and hopefully gives you peace of mind, reduces risk, but does not stifle innovation or the transformation that you're looking to achieve as part of that cloud journey. So why partner with Brightsolid? We're a local AWS partner with a strong track record across public sector. Our people are based in Scotland and we're focused on Scotland as a market. We've got a proven end-to-end delivery model, but we tailor that model to you to align with where you are today and the outcomes that you're looking to achieve as part of your journey to AWS. I just talked about Cloud Foundations, so we've got an out-of-the-box accelerator that can rapidly get you to a secure and compliant landing zone that reduces risk and hopefully provides an increased level of peace of mind. And again, through our hybrid cloud proposition, we can offer the right mix of cloud services. The ability to allow you to take advantage of co-location, private cloud and public cloud through a single partner. And over time, changing and flexing that mix to meet your needs. So before we open up to questions, if you want to find out more, then look, please don't hesitate to reach out to Chris or I. We'd love to have a conversation, understand where you are today and perhaps what you're looking to achieve in the future and how we can potentially help you as a partner. As I mentioned at the beginning, we have been recording the webinar, so we'll share it with you after the event. I'll give you the opportunity to play anything back or share it with your colleagues. And then finally, for a limited period of time, we're offering a complimentary workshop which could be used to perhaps help you understand how AWS can maybe help solve a current challenge or unlock a new opportunity that you're looking to exploit as well. So if that's something you're interested in, then look, click on the link below and fill in the form and we'll get back in touch with you shortly. So look, that brings us to the end of the webinar. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear them and Chris and I will do our best to answer them. Okay, I'm just looking through the chat window as well. Graham, yeah. Thank you. Great. Well, look, if there are no questions this morning, I'm happy to kind of call it here. Obviously, as I said, if you do have questions, feel free to reach out to Chris and I. We can pick up with you separately. We'll share the link to the webinar shortly with you as well. And look, if the workshop is of interest, please use the link at the bottom of the slide, and we'll reach out to you shortly as well to follow up. So again, look, I recognise everyone is busy. We spend a lot of time on Teams calls each and every day. I do appreciate your time this morning. Hopefully you found that useful, and hope to speak soon. Thank you. And Chris, thank you as well.
Likewise. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Really appreciate everyone's time. Speak again soon.
Thanks. Bye.